You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hard.
Hi, everyone. This is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
So today we got a really interesting one to talk about. This is one that's been all over and trending everywhere. I'm sure you've heard about it. We are going to be discussing the Dancing for the Devil documentary, which is on Netflix, and discussing 7M, which is the management group overseeing these dancers and all these interesting things that may be going on. So we definitely want to say and kind of insert here and let you know that we only know from the side that's been presented, which is the main character, her family, Miranda, in this. They're the ones that are telling their side of it. And then there's other people who used to be in 7M, other dancers, who are also shown and featured in this documentary. So these are the sides that we're kind of drawing opinions from. So it's a little bit one-sided, but still we think it's worth discussing.
Right.
In terms of, this overall documentary, I am curious, what was your impression of 7M, of this family, of Miranda, her sister Melanie, and the parents and everything? What was your overall impression of this? What did you think of the documentary on Netflix in and of itself?
Well, first of all, once again, we're doing a Netflix show because it always cracks.
We're not even sponsored by them.
No, we need to figure that out, don't we? But I was really intrigued. I think the title, the description really was like, I was like, what is this going to be? It's very interesting. But I felt really sad for the sister and the parents because you could tell that they really loved their sister and daughter, and it was difficult to see her in this situation, or cult, as they kept saying. It's a lot of determination to try to figure out what's going on. And it must be frustrating not having a family member talk to you or call you. But also, it seems like they were not really letting her really have her own choice if this is what she really wanted to have happen. If it isn't a cult. It seems like they're not really allowing her to make her own choices or to decide if she wants to separate herself from the family, because people do separate themselves from families or step away or need to put boundaries up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I actually felt that way when I first started watching this. I kind of felt like, oh, is this family just kind of really like, they just can't accept that maybe, they kept saying we're so close-knit and we're not like this, that maybe she just developed a different identity and wants to like kind of live, outside of that tight, close-knit circle of family. But then you really see, as the details come out about the Shekinah Church and, 7M, the management group, that, okay, I see why they're very worried and why they're concerned about some of these things. Like she seems to have really drastically changed and had cut them off at various points and then had come to see them based on what some person was saying.
Right.
In 7M. So I kind of started out at first being like, oh man, like this family's just going to embarrass themselves. Like, and I'm sorry that I felt that way because I obviously was not aware of the details, but I definitely didn't think that by the end.
Yeah, same. I definitely had my thoughts changed once I started watching it. And I was 100% behind the family when I realized, like, oh, maybe she's not there at her free will, or maybe she doesn't realize that this isn't in her best interest to be there. So I did think it was different. It was definitely different than when I had first started or even read the information of what the show is going to be about.
I'm curious though about like free will and understanding, because that kind of begs the question of, the family saying, well, this isn't good for her. She's not getting paid from this management group. If you all don't know, if you haven't watched it or heard about it by now, there's a management group called 7M that's led by this man, Robert Shin, he's a pastor at Shekinah Church, which has been going on for years and years. We'll go into that a little bit later. But the Shekinah Church theology, I guess, infiltrates some of the thoughts and kind of guides the dancers within 7M. the profits that they make from these very viral videos are, which is a significant profit, it goes significantly more to Robert Shin or maybe to the church. And I kind of wonder about that because, Miranda, the character that this centers around, that the family is talking about, their daughter and sister, it may be that she definitely was searching for something more in her spirituality and her dancing. It may be that to her, this feels good, that she's getting, some fame for this dancing, but she feels like she's also working on like her soul and doing this, and so from her point of view, I can see that, but I can also see from the point of view, her family's like, she's not really getting paid for this. And she's been told to not talk to us for a while. And then she was told to talk to us. Like, why is this person dictating her family life and everything, but it's maybe a question of how she's wanting to live her life right now as well. That maybe she kind of felt like she needed a little bit of separation and space from her family. And she felt like, well, this person understands my soul and the things that I need because of, some of the theology he's been, preaching and everything. I guess in a way, we as like people not connected to Miranda personally, like not as her family members, could maybe say, well, maybe she's just living her life. And this is just kind of how she wants things to be. Could there be a point, like a world where that kind of fit?
It could be. And also before they ended up in this, I was going to say 3M, the tape company, but 5M, before they 7M.
I don't know what 5M is.
I don't know what any of this is. But before, Miranda and her sister were doing all these videos and dancing together. So maybe she wanted, in a sense, her own separate identity from her sister.
Yeah.
So that it's like, hey, look, I'm really doing this with this group of people, and look how valuable I am with the pastor, and I'm contributing to the church, and I'm doing all this, and I'm being seen. And I'm not just seen as the person who does mirror dances with you, because it seemed like they were doing a lot of things like, oh, let's do things in sync, and let's do like let's make a lot of videos together and be known as the two sisters who are dancing and who look alike. And so there could be
that's a great point. Yeah, because they before Miranda joined 7M, she was very well known with her sister. They had very cute dance videos together, like very like good, dance routines and everything. So yeah, that's a good point, that maybe she wanted to kind of, separate and kind of become her own person. Maybe she wanted to take her dancing to a different level. Maybe she felt like, well, my dancing, I want it to be connected with my spirituality, kind of thing. And maybe this feels good to her. To play devil's advocate, pardon the pun, but
see what you did there. Yeah.
Yeah. I also can see that the family is like, what the heck? Like what is, like we love this person, and okay, sure, maybe she needs her space, maybe she needs that, but to completely, cut us off. And basically some of the theology that was pointed out from former 7M members was that like, you need to let the family that the idea of that kind of die so that you can rise, or, you can become again. So that's kind of the thinking that's being passed down in the theology part of 7M, which I'm confused about, because 7M is a management company for films and media. And then there's this church involved, which formerly was called Shekinah Church, still is. And yet the members are like a part of that. And they also give their money to 7M, like a significant portion. And the former dancers were talking about, he would tell us, you sinned 1,000 times today. You're trying to become like this wonderful version of yourself, like the best version of yourself. And there's something that I wanted to point out, like something that Robert Shin, the leader, had said, that their former dancers who were in 7M would have reported that, this is a quote that's in an article that we'll link below. It says, as Miranda grew closer to Shekinah Church, her sister Melanie experienced some of the alleged indoctrination that the members of 7M and the church said Shin had used on people. Melanie recounted, now Melanie's the sister, an experience in the series where she was at a weekly dinner with the 7M dancers, her sister Miranda and Shin. She asked Shin if she was a sinner. She said that he said, so this is what was reported to Melanie from Miranda. He said, what if I told you you've sinned 1,000 times today? She recalled that they all sat in a circle and held hands. Melanie said that Shin supposedly began speaking in tongues, and the rest of the dancers followed. Moreover, after that experience, Melanie said she had to draw a line in the sand because Shin had personally invited her over to spend one-on-one time with her, and she refused. So Melanie, the sister, was kind of going to some of these things, and she got a creepy vibe feeling. She was like, this is not right. This feels weird. It doesn't feel authentic. I'm guessing from the way this was written that she felt like the speaking in tongues and the sinning 1,000 times, it didn't settle well with her, right?
Right.
Because we know that from former dancers that was also true, and that there would be a lot of putting down people and saying like, oh, you sin this much. So there's a lot of making people feel bad about themselves. And at the same time, giving or contributing a lot of their money, which is significant to this church. So there's kind of guilt being used.
Right.
In that. Right. Which we can see in other places like cults or religions and things like that. So I just wanted to point that out. That's kind of
well, that makes sense.
It's
though.
Something that's very apparent.
That's interesting too. Because remember at the beginning, we were talking like what the name of the documentary is, like Dancing for the Devil. So then if you're in this church or this organization and they're telling you, they already know you're vulnerable and you're worried about sinning or your soul or whatever they're talking about. And they're telling you that you're sinning. Did you know you've sinned 1,000 times already today, or you've sinned 1,000 times? So you need to attend our church, give tidings. Plus, well, in order to pay enough for tidings, you need to have us as your management company. And it just, so they're kind of, it's all encompassing.
And then on top of that, we're going to tell you like if you can see your family or not, kind of thing. And like based on the theology of this. Yeah. It's like intermixed. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre. But at the same time, you can see some of those elements in other religions or cults or, community kind of, I don't know, groups or whatever, which may be used differently though. Like it may not be like that much percentage is taken away. There is more that's given back to, promote community and to the people that are actually giving that. And I'm not sure that it's called tithings in this particular setting. I mean, I know for, a Catholic church, it definitely is.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was just, for lack of knowledge, being raised Catholic,
I mean,
that's all I know.
It sounds like it, right? I think it's like the profits, like the contracts they have are kind of intermixed in a way that it kind of almost sounds like tithings. Yeah, it does. Like, that's really, that's a good point. It's crazy. I mean, and, I think that there's also a history with this man, Robert Shin, who had 7M with the Shekinah Church. He's had this Shekinah Church. He kind of reinvented himself many times since before this. And there's another backstory within the documentary where, before he started 7M, he was working as a pastor in Shekinah. And he was working primarily with like Korean Americans, like immigrants. And there's the story of these two sisters who were pretty young when they came to the States. They didn't really have any parental figures. Like their mom had to stay, I believe, in Korea. And so they were very vulnerable. They were seeking out family, had all these promises were made. And this pastor had these sisters, as well as other people at the time, starting up businesses like flower shops and like small kind of businesses, and these people would not see really anything. And then along with that, these two sisters, their names are Melanie and Priscilla. So it's kind of confusing because there's two Melanie. Another quote, Melanie, the sister in the church back in I believe it was the 90s, like they joined in like the 1999. Melanie recalled that young women at the church interrupted a sermon once to share that they had been sexually assaulted, coerced, and manipulated by Shin through their faith. And if you recall, Melanie in the current day, like a recent kind of story with Melanie and Miranda, the sisters, she said that he was pushing for time alone. And we don't know if anything would have happened or if anything has happened with the 7M dancers. And the sister did say, Priscilla, I guess, or Melanie decided to flee the church at some point. Priscilla stayed behind for like 10 years. And I believe Priscilla, said, I believe they both said that they were sexually abused by him. So this is not a good dude.
Right.
It's, I know these are allegations. They haven't been proved, but there's a lot of stuff here. So there's that history that we learn about in the documentary. And then we realize that, Robert Shin has he didn't really make money with kind of what may be considered labor trafficking, right? Like taking all the proceeds from these vulnerable people that needed his help and they didn't get really anything back. There's sexual abuse allegations, lots of trauma when you watch that with the sister Priscilla. She's since left and she doesn't know what to do with herself.
Yeah.
She has a lot of mental health issues. And then you're seeing this, because he kind of started to look for other ways of how can I make money. And then now there's this,
Yeah.
right?
What other vulnerable population can I now target? Or so knowing like, hey, let me find these young kids or young adults who are trying to get famous or want to make money or get known. And maybe I can also sell it to them. They need spirituality, or they need religion, or they need a management company and housing too. So he also was their landlord, which is like, there's so many layers of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He was really
wrong or unethicalness.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just kind of, it's just very strange. I mean, we don't know if this is like technically a cult. I mean, kind of what is a cult basically, right? Like that's kind of always a question. We explored that in another series, The Psychology of Cults. Check that out.
Yep.
Just a
Good plug. Yeah.
But so we're not saying the family in this from the present day dancer Marin that's currently in 7M, it seems like they feel like this is a cult. It seems like other former members of 7M feel like it had cult like elements.
Right.
It was definitely referred to in the documentary.
He does reach up and fit a lot of the tenets. When you mentioned our episode that we did, Psychology of Cults, he does have a lot of the same tenets. Like, he has the people following them. He's kind of gaslit them. They're separated from their family. They're financially obligated. They're dependent on him for housing, probably food. It's, friendships, like they're in relationships with each other within the group. So it's like everything is very dependent upon him and everything he's providing for them, which,
that's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point, because that is something we discussed in the previous episode, that like reliance for resources and who has control over them. And it's very complex, right, to kind of define and say and to pinpoint, oh, this is definitely a cult or not. But there's certainly, when these things start to come out, you start to realize there are some coercive elements of possible brainwashing, if you can go and see your family or not. Like, there's at one point, Robert Shin kind of changes his mind and says, no, go visit your family because it was causing too much problems. Or, he kind of felt like, it's kind of raising too many flags. Go visit your family. And the family would be like, Miranda's family, when she did come to visit, they said it was very surface. Like, it was just like, she wasn't really there. She was kind of just talking like on the surface. She wasn't letting them in.
Yeah.
And they used to be really close, right? And she got married to a dancer who's also in 7M. And it was the same. They just like wouldn't really let them in. So it was like, okay, they were allowed to visit. And the family was just so grateful to have her there. They wouldn't like push it, so that's kind of where they're at, is with that. I did see in the news that Miranda and her husband, I think it was her husband too, attended the sister's wedding, Melanie, because she just recently got married, but it was probably maybe the same interactions, kind of just like, I'm going to be here because it's kind of more about the image now that Robert Shin is saying they should project. Like, you should be there. We don't want it to look like a cult, right?
So you're instructed on what you can and can't say. So maybe they're told, you can share this, but you can't talk about your experience with me, or you can't go deeper. So that's probably why it felt very surfaceful too.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of a question of, is that, you're being, all these resources are being controlled by this person. This theology is keeping you in saying, this is what you need to do for work. This is how much money you contribute. Right. This is how you act. I mean, those are elements of a cult.
Yeah.
It does sound so culty when you put it together like
it's a little culty. It's a little culty or a little abusive, a lot of gaslighting going on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think this family, Miranda's family, feels like we talk a lot about them because they're the main characters. They're very much featured in this documentary. But and there's so many other people that are affected in this. We're not looking that over. It's just that this was the documentary.
I think they're probably the ones that contacted everyone to have the documentary. So they're mainly,
they kind of were like the start, like the fire starters. They were the leaders and speaking out against this. But I think they genuinely just feel helpless. Like, you just get the feeling they feel helpless and hurt. And we've lost this person. Sometimes this person comes to visit us, but it's not. There's no connection there at all. And like, sometimes people separate, they need their own identity, but then they come back and there's, you kind of reconnect maybe on a different level, but there's not that reconnect. And so it feels like they've lost her, like they haven't really gotten her back, even though she physically will be there sometimes. Right. That's gonna be a strange feeling, almost like somebody's just kind of, they're present, but they're not there in the same way, and they can't really say anything because I think when they start to talk about the church or 7M or whatever, any of the beliefs, Miranda gets very kind of, tight-lipped, and she'll kind of maybe I don't know if she gets upset or is just kind of redirects it. Like it's a closed subject. Basically.
And I think there's probably some guidelines or something where they're not allowed to talk about it, or they just know not to because they're afraid that they won't see her at all. Even if this isn't the relationship they want with her right now, at least they're seeing her and they know she's alive and they're able to talk to her.
Yeah, it's the bare minimum of, I know that when this documentary came out, I know that it was reported in the news by various news outlets that Miranda had said this was very damaging to 7M and just how things are being portrayed. So there's a lot of focus that you can tell is likely coming from inside, maybe all the way up to Robert Shin. And he has a lot of his family members involved, that focus on image and we're not this, so there's a lot of efforts to push against a particular image, even though that seems to be what is kind of leaning towards the truth. But he's very concerned with how it's perceived, which is interesting because he's, 7M is a social media and a media management company. So it's the content that's being put out is very much this is what it is. And no, we're not this. We're not this. So there is some elements of puppeteering and control behind the scenes, which some people may say, well, with all management companies, there is. But to this level, that's a little much, I think. I'm also wondering where the family and Miranda are at now. But I know that Miranda was quoted as saying she felt like it was damaging. There's probably other people and their family members that have as well. There were a couple of other family members who were included in this, but it was very brief, of dancers in 7M. But I did also read, I don't know if you saw this, that there were, or maybe this was in the documentary as well, it's touched upon, that Robert Shin was kind of directing some of these dances to classic oldies songs. He was kind of trying to bank on things that would go viral.
Yeah.
And it was, at first, one of the dancers was who had left was at first I was this is weird, but then it was kind of I got into it, and it's almost like he's trying to set his own trends in that way, which is what he would probably do with TikTok videos and a social media company, right, or a media company. For some reason, that creeped me out. I don't know why. It was, what is he doing? What is he trying to psychologically bank on? And I don't know if that was just me that felt that way, but I was there's something. Is he? So
it's interesting.
To, capture
his use.
I don't know. I mean, they were oldies, American kind of classics. I don't know if he's trying to capture another generation. I don't know if he's trying to bring something back. I don't know. There was just something these dancers don't even really know this. And he wasn't oh, this is so cool. We're trying to bring back this trend. It was just no, do this.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I don't know, something about the motive behind that.
Well, and also it's kind of interesting too. So it's not songs that they probably were raised with at all, or may even have ever heard. It's probably not in their genre, or probably nothing they're interested in. So, but just how compliant they are too. It's just very interesting. And that's kind of the creep factor too. It's just all right, here's some Big Bang Theory, not Big Bang Theory, Big Bang music, or something.
Big bands.
Big band. I don't know what the hell's wrong with my brain, but it's just something that you're not even I'm just picturing Chubby Checker or something like that. Something it's oh my God.
I think it was from that era. Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be so
it really was
cringy. Very cringeworthy.
And I mean that I saw one of the videos in this article and I was, that is pretty cool. It is a pretty cool take on it. But then when I saw the documentary and I was what's his angle with that? And maybe it is just because he's trying to bring it back. He's just trying to get a trend started or whatever. Maybe it's as simple as that, but I don't know. It really just, something about that just didn't settle well.
Yeah. And maybe
it was really weird.
Maybe he was trying to do all the different decades or something, which that could be fun. But I think also because we have we're not just looking at it as like, oh, look, we just fell onto these TikTok videos. We've seen the whole documentary. So we're looking at it more of a psychological aspect too of what is his motive? Why is he doing this? What is he going to gain with these people? Or why is he manipulating them with this? Or is he manipulating?
Yeah. And the transition and he had businesses in between, but the transition from Shekinah Church with the Korean Americans and the kind of, different businesses, and then kind of finding some other ways to make money. And then all of a sudden still having the theology of the Shekinah Church, but in a social media group. Like it evolved to that. That to me is very curious.
Yeah.
Like psychologically, you're going for money, but you're also combining other elements that possibly are controlling and are psychologically, holding.
Yeah. I was confused a little bit by, because his church is a church. It's for Korean Americans and the dancers are not Korean American. So I was just a little confused how they would fit into like the church community, how that worked for everybody too.
Well, I don't think that church that he originally started for Korean Americans, that like church was like not carried into this like 7M. It's like, this is a whole different thing.
Okay.
It's just like this M management group is.
Because I understood that they all went to the church too. That's what
I think they do, but I don't think it's like the same following now. I think that was probably like, I think he had like some people kind of, like walk out of there. I think he had to kind of like reinvent it. You know what I mean? So I don't know that it is Korean American anymore. As far as I know, that's what I thought they had said. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood that, but that's a good question. If it is,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it is confusing how because he kind of carried it over, but he kind of like not that aspect of it, but carried the theology over.
Yeah, it sounded like he tried to pivot. It sounded like he was trying to pivot and reinvent himself, but it really, I don't know. I don't really understand. Maybe he doesn't understand what he was trying to do, or maybe he does. Maybe this was this might have been his ultimate plan. Who knows? Once he came with the dancers, maybe he's like, all right, this is what I'm doing.
I mean, in whatever, it seems like he was always trying to have a source of money, which maybe he was trying to say, was for the church, kind of that type of thing. But there definitely is some exploitation when somebody is making all the money in viral videos or starting up businesses and they're, basically paying 80-90% to, you know what I mean? They're only left with 10% and they're being provided stuff by the church, but like it comes with some coercive control, possible sexual abuse or other abuses, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely is something that is worrisome. And unfortunately, the sisters Priscilla and Melanie, the ones that were kind of in that first iteration of Shekinah Church, I don't know how else to put that. Because it's
because it is. It's all right. This is what it originally was. Then it either broke apart, or he realized like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble, or I need to just do something different.
Yeah, I think there was like too much fire there, like too much smoke kind of coming up. And plus, I think he was not making the money and he wasn't getting I think he also had a drive for like fame and stuff too, to like have something out there. And maybe that's to like, he says it's like to get the message out there or whatever. But I don't know that there's any like content of that in the dances.
No.
I don't know. Maybe that's the creepy factor, is that I'm wondering, is that what he's trying to do with like kind of these oldies? Is he trying to get some sort of content, the theology in these videos, like kind of in a psychological way? I don't know. For some reason, that's just what I feel like he might go for, or maybe has already done.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Or, I was just wondering too, and I don't know if it was addressed. Does he dictate what they wear and what costumes they put on when they dance too, or are they free to do whatever they want? And wasn't sure if that also is another component of his control.
I mean, it sounds like that probably would fall in line with that, but I don't remember. I know that, I mean, he obviously picked the music for those videos with like the classic oldies or whatever. And he probably did have to, dictate what they wore and everything and how to move and stuff like that. Or I don't know. I don't know the elements of that. I don't know if that was spoken to or if I just don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just really weird.
But it is. It definitely leaves you with a creepy vibe, and knowing his dark experiences and dark past that he's had with the first iteration of Shekinah Church. And those are just things that are just spoken up about. I don't know if there's other things too. I mean, who knows? But that's just what we know about.
Right.
And that's just from like as of right now with it coming to light. So usually things take a while. And also, I thought what was interesting is Robert Shin, he sued some of the former 7M dancers. So in 2022, he filed like a lawsuit that alleged like defamation and libel. And these dancers actually countersued. And they were like, well, you know, in 2023, they were like, we're going to sue you for allegations of fraud, forced labor, and human trafficking.
Wow.
And the lawsuit also includes accusing Shin of sexual battery. So this is all still playing out. So we don't know the results of this. Some of these suits can take a long time to settle. But I mean, it's definitely an interesting one. I personally, we were talking about this before with the title, Dancing for the Devil. I didn't really, it felt kind of, like we said, kind of like a clickbaity title.
Right.
It felt misleading because I don't, like, to me, that title indicates that these people are doing something wrong. And bad against other people, but I think they're just being exploited. And it sounds Shin is kind of the person that is, oh, maybe that's what it is. Like they consider him the devil, like dancing for the devil.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because when
thing.
you're saying that, I was just picturing, you know, because we've talked in our other episode, like I was picturing like stereotypical cult leader where they're like dancing in a circle and dancing around, you know, like Charles Manson family type of thing.
Me too. Yeah, that's exactly that's what I thought when I heard that. And so I don't like this title, but maybe it is about like
they're
we're
actually
dancing for this person.
For him because he's dictating, hey, you're dancing. Here's the songs. Here's what you do. Here's how many I need you to put out or, you know, so that makes sense.
Sometimes we just talk things out and then we're like,
we got it. And you all, and everyone listening is probably like, you dummies, we figured this out.
We figured it out. Okay. It took us a whole episode, but we got it. Whatever. But yeah, no, we were picturing something else. Like something like Charles Manson, like culty. They're not doing that. And like, they're not like going out and plotting to kill people. They're not like, dancing. They're not like doing something like wild and creepy and invoking like a spirit and then sacrificing someone, in the circle or whatever. But I guess that was maybe just what we thought.
They're dancing with their tripod in the middle of the street, but for him, because they probably have to put so much out because they need to make it go viral. So then they'll make money off of it. So then they can give him money. And so they are dancing for him. And the family views him as like the devil and evil.
And maybe other people too that have like, the sisters, the Lee sisters, and then, all the former dancers. I mean, maybe a lot of other people too that have been able to speak up or maybe don't want to. Or haven't had the chance. But overall, it's as I talk through that, I'm like, oh wow, okay, that like not only does the title now make sense, but it really does have a lot of culty elements.
Yeah, I was actually going to say I changed my answer or my original thought. And this happens so often. I was telling Tanya even before we started this episode.
You're open-minded.
Yeah,
you're flexible.
Like, I'm not closed-minded. But I might be dumb and not understand what a title of a documentary means. But
well, then we're both dumb. That didn't either.
But I do feel too like he does check all the boxes, though. It does check a lot, if not all, what you picture what a cult would be.
Yeah, like coercive control, like providing the resources, cutting off contact, a theology, something that's providing like a resource for money, like being exploited. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of that. So yeah, I think sometimes we just need to talk that through to be like, is this kind of what it is? And that's what we, use this podcast for, and for you all to listen and for you to contribute. So, So, I mean, before we kind of close up here, I do just want to point out, I did quote from an article and we'll link it.
Okay.
But it's from Salon online. So Salon, I just wanted to give that credit.
Okay.
And it's titled 6 Horrifying Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok Cult Discoveries in the Netflix series. So it's online on the Salon.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
All right. I will somehow link it to something.
I'll send you
I'll put it on
in the
stories or something. Yeah, I'll stay tuned.
I just wanted to give you credit. I mean, or to give them credit for that,
Don't give me credit. I don't secretly work for salon, but
I don't know. Yeah. So we just wanted to, give them, because we did get some pretty good quotes from there from the docuseries.
They did good.
And also to the documentary, of course, on Netflix, which we mentioned Netflix quite a bit. So they get their
what the heck, Netflix? Yeah.
Give us some sponsoring.
I know.
We're throwing you a lot. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to say before we kind of close out? Anything that you want to add in there?
But yeah, I don't know if this is going to make me sound very old or very Gen X or something, but I have never gotten a TikTok account yet. So I have not. I mean, I see reels and I see stuff like that if it's on Instagram or Facebook, but so I have never seen the dancers in real life unless they happen to be on my feed and I don't realize it's them.
They're linked through like articles and stuff like that. Like I actually don't have a TikTok either. I did make an account and I believe that I shut it down because I just various things, but I do see them through like articles, and also I see on like Instagram. And
so I might see him. I might have seen him because I do watch people who dance, but so I may have inadvertently seen them. So,
no, that's a great point though. Like, would you watch? That's actually what I was going to ask you. Would you watch the 7M dancers? Like, do you feel like that deserves support, or does it?
I don't know.
Or
I mean, but I do follow some people like on Instagram who post dancing videos. Like, I do like some of that stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if I would, knowing what it was. I don't know. I'd probably be. I don't know. I feel torn because it's like, okay, well, they have talent, but then it's like, if I even watching it, am I supporting him and the mistreatment of them, or what, like, just, I don't know, it just feels, if I knew, I guess I would have to say no. I guess if I was watching it and I knew I'd probably have to say I would not want to, just because of everything else that's involved with it.
Okay. So I think I would say no as well, but I think I would be a little curious. Like I've only seen like brief clips in articles, like kind of the linked ones, but I think I would be curious to watch.
Yeah, I think I would do that too, just like out of curiosity, but I guess I wouldn't subscribe or follow.
Support it. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. And but then there's some people that say, well, then they maybe have to work more, kind of thing. Like it's a tricky subject, but at the same time, it's for him.
It just feels gross. It feels like, I don't know, just, I'm like, yuck. So I don't.
Yeah, it does feel icky.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
There should be like a disclaimer.
So we feel icky about
it should be a disclaimer. These are dancers from this. So yeah.
But yeah, so, I know we have to close up here, but I did, also have one question that I think, just for people to respond to in the, who are listening, but also just something to wonder about, is a repair, as clinicians who work with families and family dynamics sometimes, right? If we choose to, if that's our population, but, is repair possible with Miranda, like at this point, in her family, and maybe some of these former dancers or current dancers with their families, if they've kind of gone back and forth and isolated? I know this isn't an answer we can really get. We don't know them personally, right? We don't, and they're not coming to us for therapy, but do you feel like there's some form of like reconciliation at some point, maybe?
Yes, I do. I mean, because you see, like, for families who have separated by choice, or people who maybe have left from other reasons, for like addiction or other, like you hear too, people who have joined cults who have come back, or there is repair. I mean, it probably takes a lot of work for the whole family system. And I mean, it's a big change in the whole family unit, but I do feel that, yes, there could be a way to repair the family and have it not just on a surfacial level, if it is something that she chooses or is open to or realizes that is needed to be done. Right now, she probably doesn't realize that anything is wrong with the way that she's behaving or acting towards them. So I think it would have to, like, somehow she would have to choose to leave it or have help to leave. And, and with having her spouse in it too, it probably makes it a little more difficult.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I think it is possible. I think the desire has to be there, and the kind of, depending on what level of reconciliation would be wanted on both sides.
Right.
Because the family's been hurt too. So we don't know
Yeah.
if that can change things. But I do think it's possible. I don't know that it could ever really go back to being the same. I don't know that
Yeah.
a lot of things can following
Yeah.
certain events.
Yeah. I mean,
But definitely, I think if there was a desire,
yeah. And the family will always remember it. I mean, like when things like that happen, you're always going to be fearful or hurt or, and that's why there is family therapy. That's why there is individual therapy to help you work through those processes, but the pain still happened.
And as we know, everybody involved has to be motivated, has to be willing to put in the effort, has to be willing to not say, well, this is someone else's fault. Like there has to be accountabilities. There has to be a lot of different factors in there, I think, for a good reconnection. So that would depend if that were ever, desired or wanted or something down the road. We're hopeful, but we don't know. So we're just putting that out there. But yeah, so it's a good one. It's just interesting.
I definitely,
if I don't say so myself, for us,
A plus for Tanya. So
if I don't know, A plus for us.
I feel like I learned stuff from watching it and talking about it. I feel like as the audience has heard, I changed my mind and I, C for cult for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And same for me. I think it's really interesting when a documentary can do that. Again, it is just from one side, but check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about our discussion. If you want to add anything, if you agree, disagree with anything, we love to hear all your thoughts.
And we always say if there's any other topics, like, we don't want to just stay with one thing. We don't want to just talk cults all the time, but it is interesting. So if you have any other documentaries or movies or anything like that, you're like, hey, this is in the same vein, just let us know.
Yeah, we're always open to that. Don't forget to follow us on our socials. We also have socials. Instagram at Wicked Psychotherapists.
We're not dancing.
We are not dancing. No way. You don't want to see that on me. That's horrifying. On Facebook, we are the Wicked Psychotherapists. Subscribe, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. We are everywhere. And leave us a review. That helps us out a lot. Please. We will
be happy.
I don't know. Send you a sticker or something, or give you a shout out.
Okay. I have some stickers. Yeah.
I got some stickers. I got some really cool stickers that I don't know what to do with. So you can have them and I will give you a shout out. Okay. So that's really not that much, but okay. Well, just we appreciate a review. So
yeah, please. And wherever you listen, like whether it's Spotify, Apple, or even on, I think if you even go on our Buzzsprout website, because you can listen to our episodes there. I think you can leave a review on that. There's a lot of different places you can.
So many points. We love to connect with you. Let us know. Even if you're disagreeing, we like to hear that too. But yeah, so don't forget, stay wicked
and keep your mind well. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.